This is the ultimate humiliation and fall from grace for Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew. He has lost every vestige of Royal Lodge, including his home at Royal Lodge, which he's been clinging on to desperately despite the King's best efforts over the recent years to get him out. And now he is going to be banished into exile on the Sandringham estate. It's not been confirmed exactly where he's going to be living, but it is likely to be a far more modest property than he's been used to. He will have to be fending for himself far more. It is being funded by his brother, the King, and he'll have a private pension of sorts. And I think it's going to be a very solitary, sad life for him. His former wife, Sarah Ferguson, described him as a sad man. She said she'd been caring for him over recent years, but they are going their own separate ways for the first time in decades. She's not going to live with him in Sandringham, and he will be very lonely there.
Yes, we'll watch this space to see how it all rolls out in the coming months as he actually leaves Royal Lodge. Matt, the King was decisive in his action last week and he's had a lot of support. But one thing that's been called out is the fact that Andrew is technically still 8th in the line of succession. It's a complicated process, I know, involving an act of Parliament, but should that be changed or could it be changed?
Well, we've seen, haven't we? They've kind of changed the rules themselves. Because just a couple of weeks ago, they said that they needed an act of Parliament to get rid of his titles. And all of a sudden, they've managed to find a way that the King can do it without parliamentary time. I think the thing with Andrew is that you pointed out there that the King has acted, and I think he's been quite strong. I think he's the person who's actually taken a decision. He's been leading it in lockstep with William. But we've got to be careful here with like salami slicing. They've made this decision. They've told him it's over. As Sarah's pointed out there, you're out of Royal Lodge. But if you keep saying, well, this isn't enough, we now need to be taken out of the line of succession, or we don't want you living in Sandringham, we now need you living in a council house in Swindon or something like that. Where does it stop? There needs to be a finality. There needs to be a line that we've drawn that everybody is happy. And we say, OK, they're not mob rule, but the public opinion and the royal family have spoken. The King has spoken and he's acted. And he said, this is what's happening. You're losing all your titles. You're getting out of Royal Lodge. At some stage, we've got to say, all right, we've done it. Or the palace has done it. The public has spoken. The media has spoken. And everybody agrees with the settlement. Because if you then go and take him out of the line of succession, people will bay for more. They'll bay for more blood. So I think we need to maybe just take a deep breath and say he's never going to be king. Okay, if it does go to Parliament and we do have acts of Parliament taking him out of the line of succession, that people will just be asking for more and more and more. At some stage, we've kind of got to say the royal family has stepped in. They've done the right thing. Let's let the dust settle and move on.
And it's also important to note, of course, he has always denied any allegations of wrongdoing, but from the palace, they've said it was, extraordinarily bad judgment has been shown. Samara, look, as Matt said, there needs to come a point where the line has been drawn in the sand. But we know, as Sarah was saying, that he will be moving to Sandringham Estate at one of the properties there. How has this landed with the public?
I think Matt makes a great point about, the public smelling blood and wanting to go for more. And I think that they are so justified in that. I mean, there's been just basically a spate of bad publicity for Andrew since that Emily Maitlis interview 6 years ago. I don't think, there has been a week where that story hasn't appeared within the news cycle somewhere. So this will continue. I don't think that this is the final thing and we'll just never hear from Andrew again and he's going to disappear off into Sandringham. I think there will be other things that will come out. I think a big liability is actually Fergie being on her own. She's obviously now not supported in any way. So is there going to be a book deal that comes out of this? Is there then going to be more dirty laundry that's strewn across the grass of the palace estate? I don't know. And there are lots of unanswered questions. Now that Andrew has nothing to lose, it actually scares me, quite frankly, as to what he might be capable of doing, because he might open his mouth and talk to another journalist, or he might do a book or some sort of show. We don't know. I don't think that he's just going to go away quietly, even though I'm sure that's what the King and that's what William want.
And Sarah, Andrew, as I said, he's continued to deny all allegations against him. But is there a sense, and we've seen this really snowballing with more allegations and information coming to light, is there a sense that there is more coming down the pipeline?
Very much so, because, of course, we've got the Congressional Oversight Committee in the United States looking into the Epstein files at the moment. There are calls, as there have been for a long time, but increasingly loud calls for Andrew to help the authorities in the United States with their investigations into Epstein, something that he had said at the time of his settlement with Virginia Giuffre that he would do. He would help those and support the victims of Epstein. We haven't seen any evidence of that. Is it easier for him to do that now? And is it easier for the royal family to do that now that they have put distance between him? But I think Matt's point about the line being drawn is an interesting one, because we are seeing this clamouring for more and more and more punishment for Andrew. You know, no longer being a prince and being kicked out of Royal Lodge is the ultimate punishment that the king could bestow on his brother. The Defence Secretary, John Healey, is now beginning the process to have his last remaining military title, that of Vice Admiral of the Royal Navy, removed. And we've had talk this week about whether or not he should lose his South Atlantic Medal, his Falklands Campaign Medal. Look, I agree something had to be done, and it is entirely right that the royal family have acted in such a decisive manner. But where it comes to his Falklands Campaign Medal, I'm not sure I see the purpose and point of this. That doesn't have anything to do with Andrew as a member of the royal family. That is a medal that he earned for his service in the Falklands conflict. What purpose does it serve removing that from him? I think we're trying to rewrite history there.
And as you've mentioned, Sarah, the royal family did take very strong action recently. Matt, has that statement from the king, has it done enough to turn attention back to the working royals?
Oh, that's a tricky question. We often talk about this distractions, don't we? We talk about distractions in the family and the difference between the family and the work. It's not Andrew's. It's not going to go away. What I think it has done is increase the popularity of the king. I think sometimes we look at the king as a man who talks to his plants, or he goes out foraging for mushrooms on the day that his mother died. He's into lots of green issues, but I think he's come out of this. I would imagine, I'm not in the UK at the moment, I mean, I'm in Rio, but I think, in my view, he's come out of this looking quite strong and tough and capable of making decisions. And he understands that Andrew is bad news, and William is, lockstep with him, telling him that he's bad news. And I think when I was talking about the finality and the fact that it's the royal family that has made the decision, I think that it will help people like the king a little bit more, trust him a little bit more with big decisions. And I think that they will maybe more pay attention to what he says, pay attention to the causes that he's doing, because I think they've seen that he's actually been quite a strong man taking a difficult decision. I mean, I'd love it to not distract from the good work. We've got Armistice Day coming up. We've got the Princess of Wales will be out next Tuesday. We're not going to be talking about Andrew then. Hopefully, we talk about the finality. Hopefully, by making a decision, by dragging Andrew kicking and screaming into making this decision, that the royal family can look for happier days.